Hey, I'm Oak Felder, and you're listening to Main Pod Girl.
Hey, welcome to Main Pod Girl, a podcast made by Popheads for Popheads. Every episode, we'll be diving into all kinds of pop culture topics with some of our favorite artists and music commentators. I'm your host, AJ Marks.
And I'm your guest co-host, Tom. I am on the Popheads social media team, and I work on the Popheads brand.
And we're joined today by a Grammy Award-winning songwriter and producer best known for producing songs for hitmakers such as Nicki Minaj, Rihanna, Usher, Ariana Grande, Kelly Clarkson, Britney Spears, and Lizzo, and the smash singles Sorry Not Sorry by Demi Lovato and Both Here and Scars to Your Beautiful by Alessia Cara. It's the one and only Oak Felder. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Wow, man, that intro made me sound like a way bigger deal than I feel like I am.
Oh, please.
You are a big deal.
I've been aware of your work for like over a decade now.
Well, thank you. No, it's awesome. Thanks for having me here, man. This is fire.
So let's start off with what we're listening to. Tom, do you want to go first?
Okay. Lately, there's been two artists. I've been listening to a lot of Mustafa. I'm really excited for the new album because there's like features with Rosalia and Clairo. And
Ooh,
the
nice.
singles have just been amazing. I think it could be my album of the year potentially. In saying that, also an album I've been listening to a lot while moving, because I've been moving house, is Casey Musgraves. I feel like she fits the vibe of moving a house very well.
That's
So
true.
yeah. And she has a song called Moving Out.
That is,
Yeah,
I was about to
exactly.
say.
Yeah.
That's perfect, actually.
It is really nice. And yeah, that's an amazing album. So yeah, those are the two I've been going through. What about you guys?
My go-to actually for moving or just like even packing in general, even if I'm just going on a trip, Aretha Now puts you in like a very clear headspace. I've been listening to Angel of My Dreams by Jade.
Yeah, that's fire.
Absolutely obsessed with that song. Chrome Cowgirl by Leon Bridges. It's from the Twister soundtrack. So I'm hoping an album will come at some point this year. I know that Tom, you're also a big Leon Bridges fan.
I am.
Hey, by the way, have we noticed that like soundtracks are gaining like more importance nowadays?
Totally. It's like the 90s again.
It's kind of coming back, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
I think that's fire, man. I'm really into that.
Totally. I feel like there should be at least one big all-star soundtrack that like captures a vibe perfectly, like once per year. And like last year was Barbie, this year's Twisters, like next year will be Shrek 5 or something. You know what I mean? Like something fun.
The Shrek 5 soundtrack.
There's potential. There is potential
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man! Throw my hat in the ring for that bad boy.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that.
That's cool, man.
What about you, Oak?
Oh God, what man? I listen to a lot of music, man. I listen to a lot of music. I go back and forth between like old music and like new stuff. I really love Chapel Roan. She's fucking dope. I love her a lot. Like everybody else, I've been listening to Brat, which is fucking incredible.
Having a Brat Summer.
I'm a big soul freak, so I listen to soul music all day. You mentioned Aretha a moment ago, and there's an alternate cut of I Ain't Never Loved a Man. There's like an alternate version of that song that I actually like better than the original. I've been listening to that. I actually managed to find it on vinyl.
Wait, I'm like looking for this Aretha thing.
Oh, I can send you a link.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Appreciate it.
I never, no. It's like an alternate take. Actually, I'm obsessed with alternate takes of really well-known songs. Like there's an alternate take of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding.
Really?
Yeah, and it's so interesting, man. Like it really gives you an insight into the choices that some of these legendary people make.
Especially when you had to record it the whole way through.
Yeah, start to finish, because they didn't just do like, okay, syllable by syllable, or even verse by verse or section by section. It was like just top to bottom. And the best part of it is when you listen to old songs that you've been listening to growing up, they kind of burn into your memory. So they become these things that are like superhuman or immortal. And then when you hear a version of it where the artist made different choices for whatever reason, like in this Aretha Franklin version, she hits a high note in the song. And she doesn't nail it. I mean, I know it's Aretha, she usually always does. She doesn't nail it. So then you can tell that it's a pass that she did before she did the one that we all know of.
Right.
Because in the one that we all know of, she doesn't go for that note. She does something alternative, which, works just as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, she's, Aretha Franklin was a human being just like anyone else. So yeah, that kind of informs what I've been listening to.
On that note, do you have any alternate takes from your own music, from like maybe like a take that got away, if you will, that someone never released?
A take that got away that someone never released. I don't know. I've been learning recently that a lot of my unreleased records have been turning into leaked songs. So
Right. So there nothing goes unleaked, I guess.
nothing goes unleaked. Although I remember I was recording a version of a song that Demi did with Royal and the Serpent called Eat Me that I produced.
One of my favorite Demi songs.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, man. And so there's one part of I think it's at the end of the second chorus. And Demi was not, I mean, look, people have different perspectives on their day and how they're feeling. And, the best thing about Demi is that no matter how she's feeling, whether she's in a good or a bad mood, she comes to the studio and she gives it her all. But that particular day, she came into the studio and it was like, okay, we're writing the song, we're doing the record, and it's cool. And she wasn't being her like natural, like exuberant self that I'm so used to, which is fine because sometimes that energy works for the song that you're doing. And for that, there's a note at the end of that hook. You have to eat me as I am. Like a real power note that happens right there.
Yeah.
The first time she did it was fantastic. And it was like this sort of real sweet way of doing it. We did another pass and I said, hey, this time get angry with it. Like take the emotions of the day and inject it into the note. And then she gave me this fucking texture at the end of the note that was, oh my God, I started crying after she did it, man. And I had been working with her long enough where I was so used to how incredible she was as a vocalist. So that particular day, she did that shit. And I was like, oh my God, I started crying. And so we ended up using that take. But the take previous to that one, I thought was actually pretty good too. Not necessarily better than the one that we used. Because I mean, typically if I'll use the one that I think is the best, is the best one. I'll use it.
It's a different flavor, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, when you're in the studio recording with any vocalist, like you just kind of have to paint with the color that you're given in that moment, right? And so the artist might be pissed about something that happened before they got there, or you might piss off the artist on purpose.
Oh,
that can happen too. I remember I was recording a song with Brandy, a song called Begging and Pleading.
That's one of my favorites of yours.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
That's a great song.
And Brandy has gone on record as saying, in terms of vocal production, in terms of vocal performance, that's like one of her favorite songs, and she feels like it's one of her best ones. And so, as a huge fan of Brandy and as a person who loves singers, that just tickled me pink, man. I thought that was awesome. But during the actual session, we tracked that record in Atlanta. I remember it being a little bit of a push and pull because Brandy had been, her style, man. As a singer, she goes in there and she has like this really light, feathery, like beautiful tone.
Yeah.
She likes to stack all these harmonies and she likes to do all these like double and triple stacks. And it's really structured and it's really ethereal and gorgeous. But prior to that, there was a video of her in her kitchen just singing, with an A. And I remember seeing this video going, that's the Brandy that I want. While we're doing a Begging and Pleading, initially it was like very sort of light, and I remember I kept asking, hey, come on, give me a little more projection. Give me a little more projection. Okay. I'm going to go take a break. So then I got up and walked out. And not necessarily like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, like I'm not working with you anymore type shit. Right. It was just kind of like, I wanted to, and I don't think I've ever told her this. She's actually going to get mad at me for saying this now. Probably she didn't know this. But I walk out of the room and I keep her waiting long enough for her to get upset. On purpose.
Right. So it goes into the vocal.
Right. And then when I walked back in, I could tell that she was a little concerned, but she's professional. So it's not like she was cursing me out or anything. I was like, all right, you ready to try this pass? She goes, yeah.
It's like Whiplash.
And then, right, exactly. Does that mean, I guess that makes me J.K. Simmons in the situation, right?
Whoa.
for the one vocal session. It worked though. She loved the final result. So
no, she did. And that particular recording is one pass. Like we were talking about going from start to finish. She sang that song from start to finish.
Holy shit.
That particular thing. And I kept the entire
That's crazy. That's because that's a crazy vocal performance that she does in that. I am kind of fanboying quite a lot here because you have worked on some of my favorite music ever. I wanted to know, because you've worked with Demi for such a long time, like how has your relationship evolved with her in the 3 albums? Well, 4 if you count the greatest hits revamp. Like how has your relationship developed over those years.
I mean, she's legitimately my friend, man. She's my homie at this point. But more than that, every producer has a responsibility to the artist they're working for. I've always seen production as being a service industry. Our job is to put together the artist's vision for them. And there are artists that I meet the first day and they walk in. I don't know them from anyone else. And, you know, I might know them in terms of their music and I might have respect for what they've done up until that point, but I don't necessarily know them personally. And it's like, you know, they'll sit down. I really want to do this. I really want to do that. And it's like, okay, all right, I'm going to try to help you achieve that vision. And that's my job. That's what a producer is supposed to do. Like, I don't agree with the whole concept of producers walking in and sort of imbuing their own essence and energy into the music, because at the end of the day, and I say this to artists all the time, if I work with an artist, after that day, I don't have to listen to that song again for the rest of my life. But if that record is a hit, that artist has to perform it every time they hit a stage. So you 100% have to make sure that whatever it is you make is both the artist's vision and something that will resonate with a large amount of people so that it can be a big record. And sometimes those don't necessarily go together. Sometimes the artist's natural vision doesn't make it naturally resonant for a whole bunch of people, and that's a whole different subject. But I was saying all that to say that I feel that way for every artist I work with. But if I love you, I will kill myself making sure that I can do that. And I love Demi. I love her to death. So over the years, our relationships have sort of evolved from a producer who works with an artist, and, you know, and there's a lot of those types of relationships, to somebody who I consider a close and personal friend. The best part about that is that whenever we do work together, I think she trusts me enough to be vulnerable with me and to tell me about the things that she's like worried about, or the things that she's thinking about, or the things that she's stressed about, or the things that she feels insecure about. And that's hard to do, right? And so a lot of that energy makes it into the music, especially the stuff we've been making lately. A lot of that energy makes it into the music. The very best part of it is now I have a friend that I didn't have 4 albums ago. And then the second part of it is that now I have a larger palette of things to kind of choose from when it comes to helping her craft her vision. And to be clear, it is her vision. Like, she absolutely 100% is the boss of her situation. Like, when she said, "Hey, I'm doing a rock album," I was like, "Let's go. I got you. We're getting ready to do that." And then on top of that, you know, there are the perks. She's real. She's real crafty. She's gonna hate that I'm telling this story. She's real crafty. She does things like candles and incense and stuff like that in her free time, whatever free time she might have. And she made like this special, specific strain of incense that I use at my studio, and it's the best fucking incense you've ever had in your life.
That's wild.
I swear to God, bro. And so I have, like, you know, some sticks of these incense that she made. I'm not going to say she made specifically for me, but these sticks of incense at my studio. And every time people come to the studio, they're like, "Whoa, what is that smell?" I'm like, "Yeah, my homie made it."
What would you say is the difference? Because obviously, like, I imagine the energy from Sorry Not Sorry would be very different from a song like Only Forever. Like, is there any differences when you're producing a hit as opposed to maybe, like, you know, just a track in general? Or, like, do you even know if it's a hit when you're making it?
The only thing that any person can identify once they've created the song is whether or not the song is a candidate for being a hit. That is the only thing you can identify. You can identify that it's going to be a smash. When we did Sorry Not Sorry, I listened to it nonstop. And I have a rule. I typically try not to listen to my own music, so that if I find myself listening to it, I know that I love it. The thing is that your subconscious is what regulates that you like music. You hear a song, your subconscious tells you that you like it, but it doesn't tell you why. You actually have to think about why. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a fast process, but sometimes it isn't. Like, people are just, "I just like the song." That means your subconscious told you that you like the song. And so my rule is that when I make music, I'll listen to it in the studio, I'll bring it home, I'll listen to it at home. And then I won't listen to it again unless I find myself just sort of subconsciously going to it. Sorry Not Sorry was that for me. Almost every hit that I've had, that has been the case.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of identify, yes, this is a candidate for being a hit record. But there are a lot of other factors that go into it being a hit record. The release schedule, the marketing. And we had one record that was on its way, man. It was a song called "I Love Me" that Demi and I did together. And I personally love that song.
Me too.
I love that record. And then it came out and it started climbing, and then the fucking pandemic hit and everything went to shit. Like it
Yeah.
was March of that year, and it's like, oh, everything just fell off. And I was so mad because I was like, fuck, man, this record could have been the one. Anyway, so the thing is that, you have an idea of whether or not it can be a candidate. In terms of the examples that you just gave, Tom, the difference between songs like Sorry Not Sorry and Only Forever. The funny thing about Only Forever is that it was a real situation for her. That's actually one of my favorites. Funny you brought that up, man. That might be one of my top 3 favorite songs that I've ever done for her. And
Nice.
probably top 5 that I've ever done, period, as a producer. Did I think it was a candidate for a hit? Potentially, but only in a specific situation. Like commercially, that record would have had to have been applied to something that gave context, like a movie or a show or something like that. And then maybe, but that was something that I think she just needed to get out and say, because it was something she was dealing with personally. But yeah, I love that song. Her music just makes me feel emotions, which is good. It's good to feel emotions, right?
I would hope so.
You would hope so.
Because I feel a lot of those. So if it's not good, then that's a problem.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Demi just began teasing music, and you posted a photo with him recently in the studio. Is this something you're involved with, or can you not say?
Much as I would like to, because if there were anything that I was involved with, I imagine I'd be very excited about it.
Right. Okay. If there was.
If there was.
If that existed. Yeah.
If that existed, I would be
Sure.
extremely excited about it. And I would love to be able to talk about it if it existed to begin with.
Right.
So,
so if we're going through your discography and talking about our favorites, I have to, this is kind of random, but I have to bring up Ashley Tisdale essentially like was my Britney Spears growing up. And her second album, Guilty Pleasure, is ridiculously underrated. You worked on the songs Hot Mess and Hair, which I just learned the latter was the first cut that you had with Pop Wansel. When it comes to Hair, that song has always felt like a little off kilter in like the best way. It's like addictive. It's kind of just like left of center. That style of unexpected melodic phrasing is like really in right now. But can you talk a little bit about how a song like that got cut back in what, 2009?
2009. You're talking about Hair specifically?
Yeah. I mean, both of them kind of share that quality, but specifically Hair.
That song was written by a songwriter artist named Chastity Wabara. And she's somebody from my early career. Like she was somebody that I was actually developing as an artist initially. And this is before, anybody knew who the fuck I was, before I had any cuts.
Right.
And I was in Atlanta pursuing whatever a music career could potentially look like, and started developing her as an artist. And she said, I'm interested in writing songs. And I was like, cool. I Kissed a Girl had come out right around that period. But I was intrigued by that whole sort of, like I was just intrigued by that rhythm as it related to a rock song. And so we did the record. And Chastity, honestly, her background initially came from like an R&B place, because she was an R&B artist.
Yeah.
And so the way that she wrote to a track like that was just so unique, because she was sort of pulling from her R&B influences and really paying homage to like the pop rock platform. In terms of the production, Pop Wanzo he's my little brother, man. We worked together almost exclusively for so many years that people thought we were a production duo, and they called us Pop and Oak.
Yeah.
And so, and in a lot of ways, we were a production duo because we literally did every production.
There's a whole Wikipedia page on Pop and Oak.
I know. But the reason I say that is because we're more than a production duo. We're like family, man. I've known Pop since he was a teenager. You know what I mean? He's my little brother. He's like one of the 5 people in my phone that if they called me right now and said, hey, get on a plane, I need you to come help me with this, I'm off. I'm going.
Yeah. And
we learned so much from each other because he was kind of just starting out in the industry and learning a lot about just like modern practices, et cetera, et cetera. But he came from such a rich background in terms of production and understanding certain styles of music, because his father is Dexter Wanzo, legendary producer from Philadelphia who did like a lot of the Philly soul stuff, Jackson 5, et cetera, et cetera. And so we learned so much from each other, man. I like to say that I mentored him, but it was kind of a 2-way street. And so that sort of mix of energy between me, Chastity, and Pop said, let's make a 6/8 shuffle pop rock record. And so Hair was the result of that. I would say that the reason that it feels so unique in that space is because everyone was pulling from a space that you wouldn't typically pull from to make that kind of production, make that kind of song. Yeah, and then we go to LA, and Ashley really took to it. She loved that record. And the best part of it is that actually, when she tracked it, she really made it her own. So, like, if you listen to Chastity's demo versus Ashley's cut of it, they're totally different.
Because she's coming from a very pop, not rock background as well. Like, I don't
100%.
So it's a whole blend of different, which is what I love about pop music, is it's an amalgamation of every other genre on earth.
That's exactly right. It's a parts of each genre that are most resonant.
Yeah.
Like, we'll go listen to hip hop records, and there are niche hip hop things that only hip hop fans know about. And there are niche R&B things and niche rock things that only rock fans know about. But then the parts of it that become the most resonant, those sort of rise to the top, and then they mix into pop music, which is cool, man. I like that. I really like that about the genre, because it allows you to sort of dip in and out. Like right now, I feel like country's doing that. Like a lot of the more resonant parts of country music are sort of rising and turning into pop music.
Yeah, to the point where you're like, is this a country song? Is this a pop song?
Bro,
would this be on rock radio 20 years ago? Like, I really think of genres now as markets as opposed to sounds. So it's like, Casey Musgraves is a country artist in that she had been marketing herself as a country artist, and she's in the country market, and she's writing with country writers who are in that country market. But the use of vocoder is kind of unheard of for country music. I mean, at least when she started doing it. And Normani is a good example where she can make songs that are pop, or she can make songs that are R&B. And like, she, in a lot of people's minds, will always be a pop star because she was marketed so early on in pop. She was going into pop like full speed ahead. And I think it's that kind of branding early on that kind of really kind of sets the tone in people's minds,
I mean, even Demi to a degree too.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like Demi is sort of immune to genre. I really do.
Which is like one of the things I like most about them, truly. Like all my favorite artists, genreless.
Demi's immune to genre. I feel like if Demi decided to do any other genre from this point, Demi has the talent and the ability to really push it and really get people to be into it. You know who else I think is like a really genre bending artist? Jessie Murph, man. I think she's really, really dope.
Murph.
Yeah, I really like Jessie Murph. Like, I know that a lot of her earlier stuff sort of skewed more pop, rhythmic, and then she started doing like the more sort of country thing. Vocally too, she's one of my favorite artists as well. She's incredible, man.
Fascinating. I will have to keep my eye on her. So you advocate for a lot of songwriters' rights and the musician's experience on your Instagram and in your TED Talk. I want to dip into a few of those points a little further with you.
Oh, don't get me on the pulpit, man. We will talk about that.
We'll be here for hours. Well, I have some specific questions, right, to kind of hopefully streamline this conversation. Maybe we can talk about it later. But you recently made a video on how invasive it can feel when someone leaks a song that you've worked on. You mentioned it at the top of the episode. It feels like there are countless songs leaked every week from all these major artists. How do you suspect these songs make their way to the internet in the first place?
Oh my God, man. I remember some years ago, there's actually a guy that got arrested and went to jail because of this.
Whoa.
Some years ago, yeah, I was terrorized by this one individual who just kept hacking my shit. I mean, it got to the point where I was on a first name basis with the security individuals who were in charge of like all of my online networking stuff.
Right.
Like, I was on a first name basis with the person who ran that division for like a major corporation. And she would call me like twice a day, because it's like, oh, we saw activity of this person and they were da 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 da. And I think that they hacked a database that I had online, which is why I don't keep records online anymore. And some of my records leaked. And this person also happened to threaten the son of a major label executive.
What?
And the problem was, this person was overseas. And then that threat got Interpol involved. And then Interpol jumped in and amassed all this evidence, in terms of hacking and in terms of threats, et cetera, et cetera. And then that person was arrested. And I think they were still serving their sentence, if I'm not mistaken. And that was close to 10 years ago, now that I think about it. So Yeah, that's exactly how it happens, man. Like people exploit weaknesses because a lot of people store music online. People exploit weaknesses in some of these like storage services, like bots, etc. And they just get access to shit. Or, I mean, I'm not going to give the playbook. I have a background in networking technology and computer sciences, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to necessarily give a blueprint for how exactly they do it, but it's just exploiting digital services.
Yeah, I don't think we want to give that out on this podcast. And it is wild the many ways that something can leave your possession, but that is theft. That's stealing.
It's got to feel invasive too. Like music aside, it's just wrong. But I would just be terrified because okay, you have access to my music. What else do you have access to? Like I could just imagine it's quite scary.
The shitty thing about leaks, and I said this in my Instagram, putting a song together is like getting dressed during the day. You know what I mean? It's almost just like that. It's like you're preparing the song, you're making it its best. You want it to have the best chance possible to be super resonant and have everybody love it and for the message to impact as many people as possible. And it's the same when you get up in the morning, take a shower, and comb your hair, and put on makeup, and get your clothes good, and, iron your shit, and make sure your sneakers are clean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So imagine if you were halfway through the process of getting ready in the morning, and then somebody came into your house and grabbed you and pulled you outside and said, "Okay, have the rest of your day." Then it's like, oh, my hair's not combed, and my shoes look shitty, and
Yeah.
my shirt is wrinkled. My shirt is actually wrinkled right now, but my shirt is wrinkled, and then it's like you have to go through your day not your best. In addition to it being such an invasive thing that happens to you, somebody run up in your house and pull you out of your house to begin with is going to be a traumatic thing to begin with.
Right.
But then after the fact, it's like, okay, now I have to present myself as best as I can. And there are some people that take advantage of this happening. Sometimes leaks happen and they work out. Essentially, they make lemonade out of the lemon.
Yeah.
The problem is people don't fucking always want to make lemonade, man.
You play the cards that you're dealt, but it's not necessarily the cards that you wanted to play.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So there's probably like no way to prevent them from being leaked at all, right?
I mean, songs are like secrets, man. And the more people that have access to it, the more of an exponential possibility that it's going to release. If one person is holding a secret, then it's pretty much 100% guaranteed that nobody's going to find out. If two people know, then the number goes up by 2. And if 3 people know, the number goes up by 4, by 8, by 16, by 32. It can happen.
It's crazy because I used to know of leaks growing up like from the internet age, but I think working on Popheads, I saw how much it impacts the internet because we've always banned leaks on Popheads, and now we even ban discussion of leaks because we're trying to prevent it completely.
Right.
But I think I've literally seen firsthand like album rollouts change due to leaks, such as like Dua Lipa comes to mind, Kim Petras is another. Like the whole thing is just completely either scrapped, put out early, or maybe comes back in a year or so. Has there ever been any of your music that has had to just change its trajectory, whether it's an album rollout or a single release?
There are some Demi records that leaked, and as a result, the concept of putting them out, or even the discussion regarding putting them out, was scrapped. What's funny? Sometimes the culprit is the artist themselves.
Leaking the music?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't necessarily think that they would consider it leaking the music, but artists become so enamored by some of the music that they do, and hopefully they do, the music that you make with them, you want them to love it. And then they get so excited and they're like, oh, I'm going to tease this. And so you end up releasing the song on your social media platform. Now, that's good for the artist if everybody loves the song. It's bad for everybody else connected to that song if they don't.
Right, because then if it doesn't play well, then the song never comes out, and then it's like, well...
It doesn't ever get exploited. So then the writer who wrote the song, never makes any residual royalties from it, and the producer who produced it never gets production fees or anything like that. And in a lot of cases, an artist will hit me up and be like, hey, man, I really love this song. I want to tease it. Is that okay? Actually, I want to say in almost every case, for me anyway. But I know a lot of producers and writers that are dealing with some artists who just have no consideration for the people that create the music with them. Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with it in that regard. But I see producers and writers that have had to. So, that's another side of that puzzle, I think, that should be considered at least.
Totally. We have so many questions left, but I'm just going to end with a last one for the sake of time. You had a hand in one of my favorite Ariana songs, Break Your Heart Right Back, which is that cheeky sample of Diana Ross's I'm Coming Out.
I'm Coming Out.
It kind of illuminates what the song's about a little bit. At what stage in this writing process was that embedded into the song?
that that sample honestly existed before the song was written. The creation of that song is a funny story, man. Yeah. There was a song that I produced for an artist named K Michelle called VSOP.
Oh,
Okay, Michelle.
Yeah. And so this record came out and did well for her. And her management at the time hit me up and said, hey, we want to do a remix version of this song with a new sample to re-release with a feature. And so Pop and I did that together. So we were like, okay, well, what can we sample? And we were like, oh, we just sample I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross. Let's just sample that and put it to VSOP. So we did.
whoa.
And they didn't like it. They hit us back and they were like, yeah, this is cool. We don't think this is the direction for the remix. And so we ended up doing something else for that. But I always had that production on hand. And then one day I'm in the studio with Kirby Loren, who are you guys familiar with her? She's an amazing songwriter.
I know the name.
She wrote 4 or 5 Seconds for Kanye.
Yes.
And 4 or 5 Seconds from Wildin'.
That song, yes.
Yeah, she wrote that record. She's the sweetest person. She's one of the most talented people. She's super cool. And this was actually one of the first times we ever wrote together. And that was a catalog session. She came in, she penned that record, and she left. Then it was to that production, to that instrumental, to the I'm Coming Out instrumental. And then a couple of weeks later, Ariana Grande called and she said, I fucking love this. I got a couple of changes I want to make this more me, but let me cut this. I was like, cool. So I got on a plane. She was home. She wasn't in LA. She was home. So I flew out and recorded it with her. Man, the rest is history.
Wow.
The best part about artists cutting songs, I think, that are already written. The thing is that writing a song and creating a song is a different process than inhabiting a song. And the way I analogize it is let's say if I was like a clothing designer, I can design the best dress, period. Mm-hmm. But what really makes it shine is how the person who's wearing it wears it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you can have the same dress on 2 different people and it looks crazy on one person. It looks amazing on the other person. And so I feel like a lot of the personality of a song that you make, regardless of whether or not the artist was there during the initial creation, is connected to the artist. Period, point blank. I feel like Sorry Not Sorry on anyone else is not the same song, 100%. Mm-hmm. And so what I love about Ari is that she knows that about herself. And not only that, she's a fantastic songwriter. So it's not like she doesn't write any of the music that she makes. She's an amazing songwriter. But this particular record, she connected to in a way that I think she understood. I can wear this and it will be me. And I think the I'm Coming Out sample and all that was part of it for her. And she loved that record, man. Like I said, the changes that she made really made the record better. Did
it have the same concept before Ariana hopped on it? Because I know that the I'm Coming Out kind of changed the context of why she wants to start right back.
Yeah, exactly. That part of it did change a little bit when she hopped on the record, especially when Childish jumped on it. And, he did his verse. Oh, my God. That was a fun day. That was a really fun day. I mean, yeah. And that happens. Sometimes you write a song that has a specific direction and has like sort of nuances that you weren't even thinking of. And then the artist brings their perspective to it. And it's like, oh.
Totally. Yeah, you need like a fresh set of ears.
100%. And in my experience, that's happened a lot with Ari, man. She really knows how to make the narrative of a thing fit her story. Better than a lot of artists know how to.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so much fun.
Of course, man.
Yeah, wow.
I still have like a million things I want to ask.
Literally, me too.
Man, we will be here all day.
I'll have to have you back on at some point.
Oh, anytime, man. This was a lot of fun. This was amazing. And thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm very excited about this thing that you might be excited about or possibly would be excited about if it were real. So...
Yes, I would be as well if it were real. I 100%
hypothetically,
would be I'd be beside myself if it were. Hypothetically, I'm really excited about maybe something.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Oak, for coming on the show. Thank you so much to Noah for the theme music. Make sure to rate and review us wherever you get podcasts, and I'll see you in the next one.